I'm Travis Bader, and this is the Silvercore Podcast. Join me as I discuss matters related to hunting, fishing, and outdoor pursuits with the people and businesses that comprise the community. If you're new to Silvercore, be sure to check out our website, www.silvercore.ca, where you can learn more about courses, services, and products that we offer, as well as how you can join the Silvercore Club, which includes $10 million in North America-wide liability insurance to ensure you are properly covered during your outdoor adventures. Here's a quick preamble to this fantastic episode. Kevin has graciously extended an opportunity to watch one episode of Season 6 of the hit show From the Wild. Simply use coupon code SILVERCORE when checking out. But hurry, because it's first come, first serve until quantities run out. If you want to watch the entire series for free, check out our social media or website for more details. Today I'm joined by Kevin Kossowan and Chef Paul Rogalski. Kevin is a filmmaker, cinematographer, and creator of the two-time James Beard Award-nominated series From the Wild. Kevin also offers foraging walks and field cookery camps at his From the Wild base camp, which is about 100 kilometers north of Edmonton. Chef Paul Rogalski is a co-owner and chief culinary officer at Calgary's acclaimed Rouge restaurant. The restaurant has achieved the prestigious ranking as one of San Pellegrino's 50 best restaurants in the world. Together, Paul and Kevin have created the show Wild Harvest with Survivorman Les Stroud, where they forage, cook, and celebrate Canada's wild foods. Kevin, Paul, welcome to the Silvercore Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
You know, Kevin, it was kind of funny, a little serendipitous, I guess, but recently I was talking with Hank Shaw, and we were talking about his new book, Hook, Line, and Supper.
Right
and
on.
Out of the blue, without any knowledge that we were scheduled to speak, Hank talks about cooking trout, or as his Canadian friend, Kevin Kossowan, pronounces it, trout.
Yep. Good old Hank.
Good old Hank. I didn't know if that's a Hankism or what, but I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, he likes to poke fun at us Canadians and basically, any linguistics kind of fun about accents and the way we say things. One of the things that Hank pokes fun at me about is calling the forest or the woods the bush. So when I say
that's what it's called.
We're going to the bush, he said, "Are you the singular bush, the only one? That one bush? You're going to that one?" Yeah, that's a good Hankism. Yeah, Hank's been on From the Wild a couple times, actually. We've been trout fishing, foraging, grouse hunting, waterfowl hunting, actually. So we've done quite a few things. And I met Hank Shaw online. He was when I first started writing about food on the internet back when that was a thing a million years ago, Hank was one of the first commenters on my blog. And so it's funny to see him now, having started his own and then it become a gigantic thing and him having an entirely new career because he was a political journalist back when I first met him.
That's right. Yeah, funny background, but weren't you an accountant by trade before getting into what you do now?
No, I wasn't an accountant. I was in finance. I have a commerce degree and a finance major, and I worked in finance for 14 years. So yeah, there's a number of us creatives in the world of food that have business backgrounds or some type of other training and end up here because it's a creative space that offers a lot.
Well, what brought you here?
I'm not sure we have enough time for that today. Really just a deep dive into the world of food. I guess I hated my career, so I was spending a lot of time doing anything else that interested me, and one of those things was food, and I'd done some travel in Europe a fair bit, and kind of was exploring their regional cuisines, kind of from region to region, and it intrigued the heck out of me, and came back to Alberta and really wanted to dig into, well, what do we have here? What are the farms that are doing the best jobs? Who are the local food artisans? What are the things that make this place special? And honestly, that was like a half decade to decade long search. Wow. And I guess kind of plopped me why we're doing so much wild food production is one of the things I found that speaks the most to place and time in the world of food is actually getting outside the world of agriculture and greenhouses and control and interfacing with nature and then seeing what exists in that exact spot at that exact time when it comes to food. And And that's where my career's kind of led me, is to exploring those moments and exploring those foods.
Well, how did you guys meet each other and come up with this idea for Wild Harvest?
Kevin, do you want to go run with that one, or do you want me
go
to take
ahead.
this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Kevin and I met a few years ago, just because, Kevin's love and passion for the world of food. He found himself working on a lot of local projects, meeting chefs, working with chefs. And we worked on one with a lot of chefs, a few that were visiting from Europe, and some local chefs called Cook It Raw. And Kevin was capturing and really documenting every moment of that event. So it was the first time for us really to work closely with each other. And I can tell you one special thing about Kevin is Kevin just has this ability to put everyone at ease around him. And I thought, man, this guy's got some chops, but he's also just a really great person. So we kind of kept in contact since that project. And Kevin and I also did a project, just a mini project together, where we took people foraging in the field. Kevin captured a promotional video and produced it for the restaurant to use. And
that was a project spearheaded by Travel Alberta, actually. A few years ago, there was kind of a progressive movement in the culinary tourism space in Alberta to do that, to tap into the interesting kind of foraging stuff that was happening in the province, and pairing foragers with chefs, right, Paul? That was kind of what was prompted. Since then, that's kind of fizzled, and we've entered a pandemic when culinary tourism isn't a thing at all anyway. But that's how we bumped into each other. And Paul, then why don't you fly into how did we get into the show? How did we start Wild Harvest?
This is a good. This might take a little bit of time. I'll try to be as brief as possible. So a couple of years ago, I was flying in from PEI, where I was part of an event called Foraged, which was a symposium made up of a lot of different chefs from across the country. And I was just flying into Calgary. I had, done the thing that you're not supposed to do, but I turned my cell phone on before we landed. And first message that popped up was a text from Les saying, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm in Calgary. I've got a 4-hour layover at the airport. If you want to come meet me for a beer, that'd be great." So, of course, I'm like, dude, this is insane. I'm literally wheels down. I'm on the tarmac. Just let me get my luggage and I'll meet you. So we touched base. And I've known Les for quite a few years. We met initially on a project where we were both filming down in Mexico. And the idea of a television series, kind of like this one, were in the air. Anyways, so Les and I had talked about it again, just catching up a little bit. And then a couple of months later, he reached out again and said, "Hey, I'm coming to Alberta." And I said, "You know what? If you're coming to Alberta, there's one person I want you to meet." So knowing that Kevin is very good in the same sort of space as Les when it comes to bushcraft and filming and producing beautiful final products, plus Kevin's a musician and Les is a musician, I thought they should meet. And we had one little FaceTime meeting where I thought, it'd be kind of fun to get the conversation going. Initially, I thought, it'd be great if they worked on a project together with me not being in the project. But that augmented in a short period of time to what is now, 21
in front of
episodes
4 billion people, Paul. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's our potential audience right now. So it's crazy how things unfolded and where we're at. 21 episodes in the can currently.
Wow. Well, have you been in front of the camera before, Paul?
A little bit here and there. Nothing major. My experience would be more dealing with live audiences, taking the stage at trade shows, that type thing. A little bit of filming with Michael Smith from the Food Network. He's a close buddy of mine. And so this is a new for me, very, very new.
So I've been able to watch a few of the episodes that have come out, and you're on the beach, and Les is doing some foraging and pointing things out to you. Do you have a foraging background yourself, Paul, or is this kind of new to you?
Or is it? The answer is I've always been interested in foraging, and I've been basically camping my entire life. And there's things that I've noticed, those are wild chives. So I've taken wild chives or rose hips, but just real simple stuff. Where I am at now is really in this steep learning curve of what is edible, beyond my imagination, to be honest. And to be in the field and have this opportunity to learn about wild foraged ingredients with Kevin and Les is probably one of the greatest things that I have going in my life right now.
Right. Well, I've got a background fishing and hunting, and to me, foraging just wasn't even on the radar. And my wife is a chef by trade, and she loves the garden. She was into foraging. I'm like, that's her thing. Fair enough. And it wasn't until actually going out with Hank, and he took us on a foraging walk down in California there, and pointing out the abundance of wild edible food that's everywhere, and learning from his approach, I was hooked. I love it. And I love watching your guys' show because you're learning some great stuff, and you also have your recipes. You post them on the website so anyone else can go out. It's kind of like it seems like a bit of a black box challenge for you, Paul. Here's some surprise edibles. You can eat it. You won't die. Go make something.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that because it's been very much that way for me. Not only figuring out the new ingredients, but as Kevin will tell you, camera's rolling as I do it. And the kitchen changes for me all the time as well. So whether I'm cooking in an outdoor situation where, it's live fuel, fire, of course, right at the magic moment where I need heat, the fire dies. So that's one of those things to work around. But we've been able to film in various other kitchens as well. And each kitchen's a little bit unique. So it's not just the challenge of the ingredients, it's the challenge of knowing how hot the stove I'm working on is. Is my Coleman filled with propane? How hot is the fire? Is my charcoal ready? There's a lot of these elements that I can say kind of add to the color and the heat of the episode.
Man, but you're sure up for the challenge, that's for sure.
Yeah, and his track record's nuts. Les and I both, thought, well, he's going to get it wrong at least, a good portion of the time, and he can't knock it out of the park all the time. And I think his batting average is extremely high. I think there's been 2 dishes in 20 episodes that Les was like, I think he could have done better on this one, but other than that, he's been just killing it.
Wow. Well, Kevin, is that you behind the camera for most or all of it? Are you doing most of the video work there?
Yeah, if it's not Les behind the camera, it's me.
It's fantastic. The cinematography and then the pairing with the audio and the sounds, I don't know what you call it, Foley or whatever. It's a really good job.
Thanks.
One thing that I thought was interesting was you use the camera and you use your skills to not promote the Kevin brand. You use it to work with others. And I think you actually at one point came out and you said that your goal is to foster collaboration and innovation and industry development. That's pretty cool. You don't see that a lot.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it was a kind of a steady conversation real early on is, do I end up as an on-camera character? And it really didn't need it. But the fun part that I get to play that I think is probably really unique and no one would really understand is I get to go in the field with Stroud and look for things, and he and I both forage. So we both know a lot about plants, and then I get to kind of play in that space. And then when it's time for Paul to jump in the kitchen, and he and I are talking menu and ingredients and tasting stuff and figuring out, okay, where do we take this? How do we make this fit for the show? I guess. I mean, the show really is obviously a priority, but really it really is. We're trying to make a dish that Les will enjoy, because fundamentally that's what the camera's being pointed at. So it's been a fun challenge. I get to kind of play in both of those spaces without having my face on camera, which is just fine by me. I've never been the kind of obsessive about having to be on camera.
I have to elaborate a little bit. I'm very lucky that Kevin is an accomplished cook as well, and his palate is also very similar to mine. So where I feel for Kevin is he has to deal with me as I work through dishes creatively, where it's like, oh, I got this idea, and then Kevin will be like, okay, start working on the camera angles around that, and then I change it 15 times. And then at the very, very last second, camera's rolling. I'm like, whoa, hang on. one last little detail or 5.
Two artists working together, I tell you.
Yeah.
Well, there is a lot of hunting shows and foraging shows and cooking shows out there, but you guys take a perspective that is rather unique, I think. You have a very cinematic feel to how it's filmed, which is great. You guys are decked out head to toe in camouflage, and it's not about the process it's not about the actual acquisition of the food. The goal is not that. Rather, it's the full process and the respect for the food all the way through, which I find very refreshing. At the very beginning, the work that goes in to get it, the respect for how you care for it and prepare it, and then the end result at the very end. Do you see many other shows out there that are kind of doing a similar thing, or is this kind of trying to break new ground here?
That's a good question.
You're asking two guys that don't watch a lot of TV.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I would say that my entire career has been built around pushing the boundaries of what people are used to seeing, and or kind of removing the filters that industry applies and that broadcast industry and the food industry apply to how we see food. So for From the Wild, that meant we're showing you how an animal's butchered or gutted, which that's changed over time. But From the Wild's in season 8, and in season 1, Meat Eater wasn't on Netflix yet, or it was just about to be, and there was really no content in that space of most hunting shows where the grab the antlers and show the rack and roll the credits. That was hunting shows, and we really, as someone who grew up hunting, wanted to expand that into all the stuff that happens after that. And in some episodes we actually do that. We just start rolling and there's not an animal on the ground already. And what happens after that is the show. And so that's not for everybody. I get that, because the industry's built this interest in $30 and 30 minutes kind of thing. But when it comes to Wild Harvest, it's not much different. It really is about approaching an ecosystem. And half the time, and Paul can have my back on this one, in season 2, we went into flying into shooting it and had no idea what we were going to do. Like 2-3 days prior, we just didn't know. And then you walk into the field and go, okay, well, what's here? What can we do? And then it really becomes very ingredient centric. And I think that's not, when folks go looking for stuff, wild food things, whether you're hunting, fishing, or foraging, they're usually looking for like a trophy, like a morel or a whitetail buck or a trout or something. And I think this really embraces the trophy is the stuff that's on offer by nature. And on your being able to use your skill set and your knowledge to just roll with whatever happens to be on offer and make something delicious out of it. And that's what Wild Harvest is entirely about, is just wheeling into an ecosystem, seeing what's there, and then making as beautiful and tasty a plate as we can. And so those two shows are highly aligned on that front.
What are some of the areas that you've been dropped into that have been the hardest to harvest wild food in?
Paul, any thoughts? Okay,
Do you
I'll
know?
spit out one. Think about this, Paul. One of them was actually shooting the mussels scene in Oregon because we were on the coast, and that's the first time in my entire career that I almost lost my ACAM and all of our cards in it falling into the ocean because the rogue waves were coming and pounding us on that
Yeah.
scene, and so that was tough. The desert, maybe, Paul, that was pretty tough too in some ways.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's challenges of course, where you're harvesting from, but then there's things that also come into play, which would be heat, as an example, just being out and getting beaten by the sun or filming in the sun, and hydration, just some of those basic things. I think some of the harvest items that I have found to be difficult would be something like beaked hazelnut, where cracking and just trying to get enough meat out of a green nut. It's like, okay, let's dedicate a bunch of time to this one. The actual harvesting of it wasn't so bad, but the processing of it definitely took some time. And I think we're kind of lucky because a lot of I'll say this from my side of things, but when it comes to difficult harvests, Les is the guy that actually is been getting in and getting dirty and getting cold and trying to dig out rhizomes with a pickaxe out of gravel.
Like pond lily.
Yes.
Yeah, pond lily tuber.
Pond lily tubers out of the bottom of like a lake. And then another one was actually arrowleaf balsam root we did recently in the Okanagan. Beautiful plant, really hard to work with in the kitchen, but required a bunch of digging and some rock and stuff. So I don't know. It's interesting. There's such a wide variety. It's kind of hard to choose what might have been a challenging one. They're all kind of challenging. Even like making maple syrup's no easy task. Takes forever.
Yeah. Well, those rhizomes, that was from the cattails, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
How were they? I've never tasted those before. How'd they taste?
Not like anything, to be honest. Once they were processed, they really just came to light that they were a starch and used as a starch. So as a flour additive or a sauce thickening agent, we had a chance to, and this is what I really value about the show. Kevin and I spend hours in the kitchen just learning about stuff. It's like, okay, experiment number one. I've never seen this before. Let's see how this, in the case of the cattail rhizome, how it works in a slurry environment. How does it work once we dehydrate it and powder it and really play around with it. But in that case in particular, it was so neutral. You could add it to anything and wouldn't even know that it was there.
Kind of like
Really?
Cornstarch, yeah? If you had to compare it to something, is that fair, Paul?
Yeah, I think that
Kinda?
would be, yeah, or rice flour maybe.
Okay.
Somewhere in between the two of them. The one thing that I remember being one of the surprising things to work with was pond lily tuber, which is kind of pulled out the same way that you pull out a cattail rhizome. And I know Kevin referred to it a little bit earlier. Little hard to harvest, and oh man, it's not tasty at all. It's the opposite of cattail rhizome, which is user friendly. This stuff tasted like open sewer and smelt like an open sewer on a hot day. I can't even describe it.
I think that's a good description.
Yeah, and despite that, I think the crazy part is despite that, you figured out a way to use it in a dish that actually made a lot of sense and where it was kind of interesting. Because the show certainly isn't about shock and awe and look how disgusting a wild ingredient we can put into something nice. It's actually quite the opposite. We're looking for nice stuff as often as we can, but even that ended up kind of taking the place of, kind of had an MSG kind of note. It really performed a salinity kind of function in a dish, which was really unexpected. So kind of like Paul mentioned, some of the biggest rewards on the project have been the opportunity to learn and take the time and have, weeks in the field in production to actually learn about these things and dig in ways that you would casually at home. So kind of a luxury that way, being on the project.
Well, how long does it usually take to film a typical episode?
2 days.
Okay. You just
They're
drop
quick.
in. What's that?
They're quick. It's a day. We allocate a day to me filming less foraging for the ingredients, so finding the ingredients and getting them in hand. And then we usually at the end of that day, let Paul know what's up. and show him the ingredients. And then the next morning, it really is Paul's getting the kitchen, whatever his cooking space is, ready, and then we film kind of like a midday meal and then kind of a dinner meal, and then that's the show. So it's actually tremendously quick to produce. One of the advantages of actually having three guys who are really good at rolling with it and creating on the fly. And another advantage of having a show that's not highly contrived and highly designed. It really is flexible to whatever is happening, including the weather, including whatever. That's just the nature of, going outside and things happen. And yeah, so that's really, really lucky in that respect.
So, Paul, if I wanted to go out and do a little foraging and cook up a meal, and I didn't quite know where I was going to go or what I was going to find, what sort of advice would you give me? And what sort of equipment should I be bringing with myself to hopefully be as successful as possible?
What I think is brilliant to me is you don't actually have to go far. I think the notion that I had before this project was, have to get deep into the woods. And that's not the case at all. So you can go into your backyard, you can go into the alley if you can find a place that, maybe a little bit sheltered from some debris and pesticides and that sort of thing. So you can really harvest anywhere. As far as tools go, I think overall, I always bring a nice small knife with me. So something that I can cut with, a pair of scissors, and I don't have one yet, but Les is in the process of developing. It's called a hookah? No.
A hori-hori.
A hori-hori, that's it, yeah. A hori-hori, which is like this heavy-duty blade on one side that kind of is like a cross between a garden spade, like a little garden shovel, and a knife. And that,
oh, cool.
Yeah, that thing is unbelievable. I can tell you, if you used it just once, you're going to want to buy one.
I can jump in here too. I
can
say that the one thing that I think we lack in the field, and that when I take people out into the field to teach them about foraging, it's simple stuff like bags. Like you need to put stuff in things, in something, and in some cases, and it's difficult because it's a moving target. In some cases, it might be crayfish in the creek that you found. Well, that needs something that can handle that. That's a bit wet and might give them some oxygen. And in some cases, it's like little tiny things that you might need a little bowl or a little bag. In some cases, it's gigantic amounts of nettle or cow parsnip or fireweed, where you have like bouquets of it, of big bunches of things. So it's a bit at that moving target makes it a bit tricky to kind of advise people what to bring. But you definitely need things to put stuff in, because when you do find stuff, you find a lot. Like when I go for mushrooms, I fill my vehicle multiple times, so I need lots of baskets. Not one.
I love it. So I really liked the episode. Obviously, on From the Wild, watching Hank Shaw, because I know Hank, and had a good laugh at how much he complained about being cold and tired. And what I thought was interesting, Kevin, is that you say that you are a preacher in defense of uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
That there's a value to being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You still feel that way?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a film called Walle that I thought was one of the most genius films ever created. And in this little animated film, humans are relegated to sitting in homeostasis. And you can watch the movie and figure out what that means. But I honestly feel like I don't live my best life sitting on my couch. That's not when I'm experiencing and building memories and learning and becoming better connected with my planet or my friends or whatever. So I quite embrace the destruction of homeostasis and reminding yourself that you're alive and reminding yourself that you're a hot-blooded creature that is capable of doing things. I think that feels good intrinsically, but it's also good for your body. It's good for your brain. So yeah, it's funny. We put Hank in some pretty some situations he's not used to. Let's just put it that way. I think there's a bit of a difference between going to I guess guided lodge kind of scenarios, that's
Sure.
pretty common in the US. And then us crazy Canadians who are like, let's walk 10 miles into the bush up a river where there's nobody and nothing and sleep under a tarp in a thunderstorm. Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff that we put Hank through that is a bit bad on me, but in some ways I feel fine about it, because really we all need a bit of a kick in the butt the odd time, that we're more capable than we think of, and we're more resilient than we feel we are. And sometimes we're just not as prepared as we should be. So that means everything from the kinds of things that Les Stroud has spent a lot of his career teaching people about, to just basics around clothing and backcountry equipment, which doesn't need to be a lot, but it needs to be something so that you know how to take care of yourself outside.
Well, Kevin, you take a lot of people out and teach them about foraging, and you introduce them to living off the land. You introduce them to hunting and fishing. And I think at one point you said a few years back you made the very conscious decision to start a new hunter on small game like grouse, as opposed to starting them on big game. And I think that's a very wise decision. But I'm wondering, is there a story behind why you say you made that very conscious decision?
Yeah, because I'm an idiot. And early on, when we were producing From the Wild, we just, any friend that expressed interest in hunting, we thought, oh yeah, we'll take them out. Like, what do you want to go for? And they would, kind of naively and genuinely, we just wanted people to have a fun time, and what would interest you. The problem is that optically, they would watch the series and be like, I want to go after black bears, which was really common, and big game, or a moose, or they want to hunt grizzly bears and wolves or whatever. It's just funny what people kind of feel like they can do right off the get-go.
Sure.
So we actually introduced a lot of first-time hunters into bear hunting in the spring. And while it's doable, I just don't think after having done it for 2-3 years, I realized, man, this is a mistake. The skill set that you need to hunt a black bear is in the advanced level for a variety of reasons, including that they can kill you. And so there's that. And then, having introduced some people to something as benign as walking the roads for grouse, that seemed like a lot better place to start. Your life's a lot less at risk. There's a lot less that can go wrong. And so I wish I had maybe thought of that little nugget of wisdom sooner. But yeah, I would advise anybody mentoring people in the world of hunting or fishing, like start small, start easy, start with the easy wins so that it's fun for people, rather than don't go on a mountain sheep hunt as your first hunting trip ever. Go for something a little easier. So that, I don't know, we learned kind of the hard way and make some mistakes. And one of the things about the show, though, and I would say Wild Harvest is the same, is we're not afraid to make mistakes on camera, not afraid to have lived through some of our learning on camera, and to be better people and better outdoorsmen, a few shows down the road than we started. There's no shame in that, in my opinion.
I like that. Now, Paul, I know you've talked about overlooked or hated type of wild foods that are often treated like weeds or sprayed with chemicals or destroyed because it's interfering with crops and that are commercially growing. Once people start to they watch Wild Harvest and they start embracing what they can actually find, and like you say, you can go in your back alley, you can forage on the sidewalk, really, if you know what to look for. As a chef, what would be some of your favorite wild foraged foods that you would like to cook with?
Oh, that is...
That's a good question.
Yeah, because there's so many. And I think the past year of my education when it comes to foraged ingredients, I can say that almost everything that we have brought in from the wild has been delicious. And it all has a place. There's definitely some considerations which would be based on volume, and some things are definitely easier to get a large volume of product without damaging the environment. Fireweed would be one of those things, especially this time of year. And that's the big thing. You don't want to go out and harvest and damage the environment, which I think fundamentally changes how I think of the ingredients. As an example, something like a delicate, beautiful little flower called Spring Beauty is delicious. I wish I had buckets full, but that's not the way they grow. So it's capitalizing on things that do have volume attached to them and serving them in a way that I can showcase the abundance, or really dialing it down and having things that are more dear in the way they grow and challenged in the way they grow, and really tell that story on a plate as well. And aside from that, really the big thing that I've learned is a lot of the elements when it comes to flavor that wild ingredients present are very similar to what you have in commercialized production of produce. There's some ingredients that are bitter. There's some that are sweet, and it's really, as a skill set, working with wild ingredients. It's no different than working with typical ingredients that you could buy in a supermarket.
One of your favorites, Paul, I'm going to interject, I know is milkweed, and that's a great example of what you're talking about, where it's a plant you have to go easy on for a variety of sustainability reasons surrounding the monarch butterfly and other things. But holy heck, is that a delicious piece of green vegetable, right? But again, to your point, it tastes a lot like you would expect of a delicious green vegetable. It's not going to challenge people's understanding of food. Cattail also, with its kind of cucumbery, spicy notes, really familiar. It's not much of a reach for your palate. And I wouldn't say many of the ingredients we have, Spring Beauty, the little tubers below it, taste like shockingly like potatoes. So they're not, again, just not as weird as you think. Whenever people think, oh, wild food, oh, that's weird, or oh, forage, that's weird, I think, yeah, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. There's lots of things that we know in the world of food, in agriculture, that are from the wild, and they're not weird. It's not nearly as bizarre as you think.
Yeah.
And then there's rock tripe. So there's some weird things.
Yeah, rock tripe is that was a challenge.
Well, I really like the fact that you guys emphasize ethical harvesting. You're not just going out there and wiping out a full patch, and you're drawing the connection to how this is a food source and an important part of the biology and the makeup for other animals. Like you're just saying, they're the monarch butterfly. I got to imagine that putting a show out like Wild Harvest is going to have a two-pronged approach of, number one, educating people, but it's also going to encourage people to get out there and start foraging. Have you noticed, and like particularly with COVID, I've been finding there's more and more interest, people talking to me about hunting and foraging and fishing and being self-sufficient. Have you guys noticed there's a marked increase in the demand for this kind of knowledge? And also, have you noticed that maybe some of your favorite spots are starting to get wiped out because of new people getting into it?
Well, I'd say last year I noticed a big bump up. We started seeing like trailer, campgrounds that didn't exist before on Crown land in the middle of nowhere. And that was quite common. But I'd say this year we're finding the complete opposite. Why? I don't know. It's like people burned out on that. They're like, oh, maybe this isn't so bad and I don't have to be so smart and so self-sufficient. But yeah, I have a few opinions on this. And we've, again, covered a lot of this on camera, but I'm personally of the opinion, and I know Les is largely philosophically aligned, and Paul probably too, that our objective is to introduce people to these species so that they actually care about them, and in so doing, in caring about them and knowing about them, might care a little more about how we do our forestry or how we do some of our other resource extraction. For example, chaga is a perfect example. I had my hand slapped on social media for pictures of harvesting chaga, and people like to really talk about the sustainability of chaga harvest. And chaga is a fungus, kind of like a coffee tasting, delicious, good for you antioxidant fungus. It's really, really great. I love it. We use it at home. But my knee jerk reaction to that is, when you used your paper towel today or your toilet paper, did you discuss with it the sustainability of the chaga harvest and the clear cuts that generated those paper products, or the ones that we shipped to China or somewhere else? We don't think about sustainability. You know, people get pretty fussy about sustainability with foraging, but then we just completely like mow the boreal forest or any other ecosystem, or completely destroy the grasslands ecosystem with agriculture and fence lines and such, and don't really think anything of that. So to me, to get too in my face about sustainable foraging when we have all those other practices as a species is just a moot point. There's so much bigger issues to discuss than did I pick the chaga at the top of the tree and the bottom of the tree.
It's funny what people get their knickers in a twist over, isn't it?
Yeah, and how blind they are to the fact that they live in a wild space. You know, I live in a city. It's in a wild space. It's in an ecosystem. It is. People don't think of that, but that's how it works. And and the impact and the general day-to-day impact that they have on the environment, people are pretty blind to, which is another reason that I think encouraging people to get outside and explore what's in their back alley, like to Paul's point, if they find out, holy crap, I just saw someone spray right where we pick our dandelions every spring, that makes you not feel happy. And then maybe you'll do something about it. Maybe you'll say something. Maybe, you know, our policy will change so that we're not, you know, making stupid moves in our environment just to suit aesthetics or something shallow, and maybe we'll have a broader perspective on how we interact with the environment. So that's my take on that. So yeah, we'll encourage people to forage more. Yeah, they'll have a bigger impact on wild things. Cool, great, because then when there's a permit to go out to a forestry management area that's going to wipe out 5,000 hectares of forest, maybe someone will stand up and say, whoa, maybe not.
That's one thing I find the show does very well, is it shows how we are all a part of the environment. And it's not, hey, there's nature and there's me.
Yeah.
There's nature and there's the plants and there's the animals and there's man or human.
Well, I'm glad that comes across.
Oh yeah, no, it does. It does. And it's like, and I mentioned it before, Shane Mahoney, back east, he's a prolific conservationist and hell of an orator. And he says, you know, I'm asked about how can I square myself with the fact that I love animals and that I hunt. And he says it's not a question of there being a different set of rules for them and a different set of rules for me. The question is, I am one of them, or the fact is I am one of them, and we all work together, and we have to take a look at how that all comes into play. And that's one of the takeaways that I see on Wild Harvest.
Yeah, I'm glad that comes across. We absolutely are part of the ecosystem that we live in, and every decision you make every day impacts that. And if you don't want to consume a living thing, then you choose death. Like, as humans, to live, we're killing a species of something. And I'm not very speciesist, as Paul knows. It doesn't matter to me whether it's a rabbit or a deer or a bear or a fish or a plant or a fruit or something. Like, something's life is ending. And it's, you know what, to be honest, in the shooting of the show, Les and Paul and I talk a lot more about this than gets edited into the show. Right, Paul? We talk about it a lot. It's really present in every bloody episode where we're talking about interesting, like just the ethics of harvesting a tree or the ethics of harvesting a plant and how we approach nature and what we, you know, kind of how maybe what we should be doing rather than what we're doing. And so anyway, Paul, do you want to speak to that at all? Like, how has that been important to you?
It's great to hear that your take has really been what we've been desiring from a project, and I think one of the biggest wins, and I know that when Kevin and Les and I are in the field, I mean it is organic, it's legitimate, it's unscripted, it is just capturing that moment. But the way that the story's been told when it comes to the edit, I think really shows that very well. And I also have to add the timeliness of this with COVID. We didn't start this knowing that COVID was going to be a thing and everyone was going to be dealing with it. But what's been one of the most satisfying things is to read some of the emails coming in from people that have been watching the show, and quite a few people. And this is what shocks me. And Kevin has heard me say this a few times. Is we've got both male and female people saying your show brought me to tears. It's about time there's something like this. I felt connected. I felt part of a bigger picture watching your show, and really that's kind of the ambition. We want people to go outdoors and to breathe the air, to take a moment, acknowledge where they are in this world and who we are in this world, what we are as a species. Might be a little bit further down a rabbit hole that the show doesn't really speak of, but we do, as Kevin was saying, when we are together and we're talking about things and the connectivity of it all. How plants do, there's scientific proof that plants do communicate to each other, that the forest looks after the forest. We're all tuned into this world. And, when the number one battle right now for our species is fighting algorithms and the polarization of politics, and how something like COVID, instead of bringing people together, seems that it's divided people in many ways. And that's not really the place that we want to exist. We want to tell a story about togetherness, and we are part of a huge collective, and our energies do melt and we do combine, and we are small pieces in a greater sum. And with all that being said, again, to hear you say that, Travis, that you picked up on that from watching the show means a lot to us.
And just one more thing is to Les Stroud's credit, he is highly attentive to these concepts and knows that we have to dribble it into the show. We can't just hammer this and be preachy about it. So let's slide those little lines in there that make people aware that this is where our head's at, and without making the show, too spiritual or esoteric or a high concept. And let's try and keep it on its feet on the ground. So I give him credit for that, because we could spend a lot more time diving into this, but instead we do it in moderation.
I think there's probably a desire out there in moderation. Yeah. I think there is a desire out there for people to hear more of that. Maybe it's not on the Wild Harvest show. I mean, you got to speak to that algorithm, and you got to speak to, if you want to get the message out, you want to be able to do it in a way where people will actually be watching and listening. But I wonder if Wild Harvest around the campfire, Wild Harvest outtakes, or just those conversations that happen outside, I think are very important. And I think there is a desire that people want to hear about that, because that whole idea of interconnectedness and the spirituality of all of that, the esoteric sort of concept behind all of that, is something that has sort of been missing from the conversation for some time. And I think when I talk to other people, I do get the sense that there is a craving for that.
Yeah, and that don't have to talk to many outdoorsmen with a lot of experience that to find that that spirituality seep in again. That discussion, spirituality that would have existed a few hundred years ago by default in any group of people that lived connected to the outside and connected to the world in a very different way. We certainly went through a disconnect period, but I don't disagree with you. There's an appetite for it. I would say we dive a little deeper into it and from the wild, as far as challenging kind of some of the ideas, challenging lots of ideas, everything from the militarization of hunting with camouflage and night vision and semi-automatic weapons and drones, to those kinds of things, those kinds of concepts about our connectedness to nature and that and the oneness of the whole thing. So we do dabble with it in that series, because we have I don't know, just kind of a broader mandate, I suppose. And so it does get found there, but I don't disagree with you. There's probably an entire series that needs to be built just around that idea.
Well, is there any, I'm looking at the time here and conscious of the listeners, want to make sure that on their drive in, they're able to get most of the conversation. Is there anything else that we should be touching on?
Oh, I don't know. Kevin, can you think of anything?
No, we've covered a lot of ground. Yeah, I'll leave it squarely in your lap, Travis, as far as what you want to cover.
Okay. And if people want to watch your show, how can they do that?
I'll dive into that. Wild Harvest is currently airing on 400 plus PBS stations in the United States. So it's being aired by American Public Television all over the place on PBS. And so it's there. It's about to air on National Geographic Asia Pacific. So it'll be in that market for a while. And these are fairly long licensing terms. So the show will get looped by, different stations at different times. So the timing isn't exactly, a specific thing that's hard to pin down for folks, but they'll have to look it up in their region. From the Wild is on Vimeo on demand and always has been. So that's most easily found at our website. Fromthewild.ca has all the links to all the seasons. We've got 7 of those being kind of up and ready to watch now. And am I missing anything, Paul?
YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're on the Survivorman, Les Stroud Survivorman, I think, is the YouTube channel. Am I right, Paul? And then there's a playlist there with the Wild Harvest being available online where we're not geo-blocked, which is a term that means that if you're being aired, for example, in the United States, we can't air it on YouTube in the United States. So that's available in Canada on YouTube and other countries.
Excellent. Well, Paul, Kevin, thank you very much for being on the Silvercore podcast. I really enjoyed speaking with the two of you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, me too. It was a pleasure.